Good day, my beloved brothers and sisters in Christ. On the 8th of April 2024, an extraordinary celestial event will take place. We are about to encounter a solar eclipse, but it's not just any solar eclipse. It is an extremely rare total solar eclipse that's linked to some unsettling predictions for the 2024 elections, with implications for both the US and Israel, and some believe it could even signal the end times. In today's video, I'll break down the real meaning behind this solar eclipse and tell you what it actually signifies. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss the shocking revelation at the end of this video. In various parts of the Bible, there are connections drawn between end-time events and heavenly phenomena. There are many verses mentioning the sun, moon, stars, and perhaps even eclipses in relation to prophecies about the end times. For instance, in Luke 21, verse 25, Jesus speaks of signs in the sun, moon, and stars when discussing the timing of the end times. As a result, when individuals observe uncommon or rare astronomical events, it often leads them to ponder whether the end times might be drawing near. To truly understand the meaning behind a sign like a solar or a lunar eclipse, it's important to reflect on history, explore biblical references to similar events, observe the ongoing global happenings, and carefully analyze the circumstances. And by piecing together these elements, we can discern whether there is a genuine warning or if it's part of a larger biblical prophecy unfolding. As Ecclesiastes 1 verse 9 wisely states, "What has been will be again, what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." Put simply, it means that history tends to repeat itself. And here's where things get shocking. God's character remains constant, unchanging from yesterday to today and tomorrow. This means that God continues to communicate as he always has and addresses sin and nations as he always did throughout history and the Bible. Recurring patterns emerge, particularly regarding a nation's idolatry and sin, which God consistently confronts. Every significant prophet in the Bible who addressed Israel's idolatry and sin was accompanied by specific signs and warnings indicating what would follow. Reflecting on Revelation chapter 6, we encounter the symbolism of the four horsemen depicting God's judgment upon nations. First comes a figure representing conquest or leadership, leading to division and global unrest. Then follows war, stirring up conflict and disrupting peace. Subsequently, famine ensues, bringing economic hardship and agricultural struggles. Finally, death arrives, spreading plague and disease. While these events unfold on a global scale, they also echo recurring patterns seen throughout history in the Bible. These signs often emerge in response to a nation's sins and idolatries, illustrating the cyclical nature of divine intervention throughout time. For instance, God appointed Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian conqueror, to bring judgment not only upon Israel, but also on neighboring nations like Egypt, Assyria, Moab, and even the Philistines and Phoenicians in the Gaza Strip area. Before the sieges, Jeremiah the prophet mentioned a severe plague and famine that had been devastating the land for years. In the Bible, Jeremiah 38 verse 2 conveys the message of the Lord, stating those who stay in this city will die by the sword, famine, and disease, but those who surrender to the Chaldeans will live. They will escape with their lives as a reward. Looking back at recent events starting in 2020, we've witnessed all four signs. Plague, famine, economic hardships, widespreads. These events serve as potent reminders of the sin and idolatry prevalent in nations, and they signal God's judgment on the earth. While it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end times, the signs are undeniable, and they suggest that we're drawing closer to significant changes. If these are indeed signs of judgment, there must be reasons behind them. There must have been warnings or indications preceding these judgments, as God never acts without first revealing his intentions to his prophets. Now let's delve into the significance of the sun and moon in prophetic signs. Did you know that in biblical prophecy, the moon consistently represents Israel, while the sun symbolizes the Gentile nations? Well, you might want to pay close attention, as it's about to get a lot more interesting. The book of Genesis reveals that the sun, moon, and stars weren't created until the fourth day. Before that, light already existed on the earth, along with vegetation like trees and flowers, which were created on the third day. It's worth noting that trees and plants rely on sunlight and rain, but the sun itself wasn't brought into existence until the fourth day. How could it be? This shows us the critical role of the sun and moon in sustaining Earth's climate and ecosystems. Without them, there would be no ocean currents, hence no climate, and consequently no rain. Back in those ancient times, rain wasn't a common occurrence until the days of Noah's flood. Genesis 2 verses 5 to 6 sheds light on this, explaining that there were no shrubs or plants yet because God hadn't sent rain, relying instead on streams that emerged from the earth to water the ground. So why did God create plants on the third day? They were intended to govern the passing of days, years, and the timing of important events. These celestial signs hold particular significance in biblical prophecy, especially regarding the end times. Joel 2 verses 30 to 31 foretells of wonders in the heavens and on earth, including the darkening of the sun and the turning of the moon to blood, signaling the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. This imagery symbolizes impending turmoil, with blood representing war and judgment, while smoke and fire signify volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. In essence, these celestial events are prophetic indicators, as Jesus himself foretold of earthquakes, volcanoes, wars, and other upheavals as precursors to significant events. Now, did you know that the 2014-2015 blood moon tetrad had a connection to Israel? Well, this is where things take a turn. However, many struggle to grasp the significance of this particular sign, and its meaning remains unknown even today. The number 4 often symbolizes the universal authority of God's word. In symbolic terms, the moon represents God's protection and oversight over the nation and people of Israel. The blood-red hue of the eclipse was seen as a portent of impending bloodshed, a sign of looming judgment. Given that the eclipse is spanning a 2-year period, the number 2, biblically associated with division. It describes a time when God will gather all the nations in the valley of Jehoshaphat for judgment, specifically for their mistreatment of Israel, including scattering the people and dividing the land. We're witnessing nations carving up the land of Israel, a situation hinted at in the book of Joel. The Bible even pinpoints specific nations responsible for this division vision, namely Tyre, Sidon, and Philistia. What you're about to see next is quite shocking. Philistia, which corresponds to the Gaza Strip, was home to the Philistines, now known as Palestinians. The term Palestine originated from the Romans, who renamed Israel to Philistia after the Philistines following the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. This was meant as a mockery of God and the Israelites. The Palestinians are central to the proposed 2-state solution between them and Israel, a concept also prophesied in the Bible, including by the prophet Daniel concerning the Antichrist and a 7-year peace treaty involving Israel. Tyre and Sidon were regions inhabited by the Phoenicians. The prophets Ezekiel and Ezekiel 28 mentions the king of Tyre, seen as a precursor to the Antichrist. After the Greek and Roman conquests of Tyre and Sidon, the Phoenicians migrated to Greece and Rome. Interestingly, the entire continent of Europe was named by the Phoenicians after the daughter of the famous Phoenician king of Tyre, Europa. Today, the European Union, United Nations, and even America are linked to the ancient regions of Tyre and Sidon. Once inhabited by the Phoenicians, these modern nations are expected to play a role in shaping and promoting the 7-year peace treaty as prophesied in the Bible, which will be confirmed by the Antichrist. It's crucial to grasp the importance of this and what it means for the future. Now, in 2017, 2 significant and uncommon events took place in America. First, on August 21st, 2017, there was a remarkable occurrence known as the Great American Solar Eclipse. It was visible across the entire nation from the west coast to the east coast of the U.S. However, it's essential to know that an eclipse alone doesn't hold much meaning unless it is accompanied by other events that align with biblical and Israeli contexts. The following month, on September 23rd, 2017, another exceptionally rare event unfolded involving the alignment of stars and constellations referred to as the Revelation 12 sign. On this date, the constellations of Virgo and Leo, along with Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, the Sun, and the Moon, aligned in a unique way resembling the depiction of the Revelation 12 sign in the Bible. Did you know that this alignment has only occurred twice in history? Well, this is where things get even more shocking. Keep an eye on these constellations, as they'll be significant again in relation to the 2024 eclipse. Revelation 12 warns us about the conflict between the Antichrist, known as the Beast, and the saints, as well as the rebirth of Israel and Jerusalem as a nation. Both these signs together served as a dire warning to the United States concerning Israel, specifically regarding the division of land 3.5 years later, symbolizing how this division may occur with the Antichrist. From August 2017 to January 28, 2020, President Donald Trump proposed his deal of the century called Peace to Prosperity. It advocated for a two-state solution, granting 70% of Israel's land, including the eastern half of Jerusalem, to the Palestinians, the ancient Philistines, Israel's historical enemies, for a Palestinian statehood. Following this, 3 months later, the pandemic erupted, causing widespread devastation worldwide. This was followed by significant economic struggles, civil unrest, conflicts with Russia, and the loss of leadership for both Netanyahu and Trump in 2020. Surprisingly, instead of witnessing the signs of the four horsemen as anticipated, we saw their signs occurring in reverse order. Furthermore, as a consequence of these events, we observed the emergence of alliances like Gog and Magog, primarily through OPEC oil nations aligning with BRICS alliances, including China. These alliances are effectively challenging the dominance of the U.S. dollar in trade, leading to significant inflation and the imminent collapse of the banking system in the U.S. Shockingly, all of these occurrences were prophesied in the Bible concerning Israel and the end times. Moving forward to April 8, 2024, 7 years after the initial eclipse in August 2017, another eclipse is set to occur. This time it will not only be visible across the United States, but its path of totality will form a significant X shape across the country. Unlike the 2017 eclipse, however, unlike the Revelation 12 sign, this eclipse will only cover the eastern half of the nation, and it will take place 7 months before the 2024 presidential elections. Interestingly, just like the Revelation 12 sign, the constellation of Leo symbolizing Judah, the X shape formed by the eclipse is reminiscent of the Hebrew letter Tav, which symbolizes a mark or a seal. This letter is significant as it's only used twice in the Bible, including in Ezekiel chapter 9, where it represents a seal of protection placed on those who grieved over the sins of the first Jewish temple before its destruction by Babylon. And similarly, it echoes the marking of doorposts during the first Passover in Exodus. And it foreshadows the mark of the beast and the seal of protection over the 144,000 witnesses during the 7-year tribulation period. Therefore, the Tav mark on the United States signifies both protection and judgment, particularly concerning the division of the land of Israel.